Post-production squish here with a minor editor's note. I made the video, I made the commentary, and then I realized I got like a pretty important fact wrong. In the video, I talk about the Kernas 2000 and it being the same BR as the F-4E. And simply put, I actually just mean the Kernas. I forgot that they were different things, and the Kernas 2000 is a higher BR and is has better missiles and basically the same flight model. But I just mean the Kernas. The Kernas is the one that has AIM-9Gs. Everything that I say about the Kernas 2000 is applicable to the just regular old Kernas. Aside from that, it really is Israel's fault for conspiring against me. Anyways, you guys get like a bonus clip out of it. You guys get to watch a rate fight, so you guys can enjoy that. Basically, I get a little bit of altitude. He comes in. And just gonna hold speed and let him run out of energy, and then he's gonna do a one circle reversal, etc., etc., etc. Growling sidewinder, blah 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 blah. He flies in front of guns. I missed the shot because it's like first thing in the morning, and my Phantom aim is it's not a plane that I play as much as I probably should, so aim is not that great. We eject the missiles because they're fat and getting into the skizzers, and the Phantoms. The F-4E is okay in the skizzers, but the MiG-21 has the potential to be better, so we just eject away. But anyways, here is the rest of the video. Who's down-tiering the F-4E Phantom and having a very, very exciting game? It's me, it's Squish, it's Beer Thunder, and this is the video with the F-4E Phantom, so you guys can stop asking me in the comments to actually play this thing, because I've already played it on stream. I did fine. I play this plane kind of reasonably regularly. It's one of the ones that is in the rotation. I just never made a video about it because my thoughts on this plane are a little bit more complex than I want to let on, and they require me to think and use brain power, and I don't really like doing that because in the very, very recent past of whenever this video is coming out, it was moved from 11.0 down to 10.7, and this is in line with moving the F-8U2 down to 10.0, but I think it is actually ends up being a lot less egregious. And to understand that, to understand why the F-4E probably possibly moved down, we have to understand what the sim meta is and how people actually play sim as opposed to the way that people theorize that other people play sim. So number one, at 11.0, the F-4E Phantom had some pretty miserable matchups. It was okay, it was good, but it was really only good in down tiers and only good when you fought people that are incompetent. Basically at 11.0 you had things like the J7E, a bunch of different F5 variants that you were kind of fighting most of the time. I think the F5 was 11.3, but I mean it's the same point. The F4E by itself it's good, but it's like the upper level of mid. It's like mid good. It's not good. Because this plane has an airframe that's not particularly maneuverable. The rate is okay. It's on par with everything else, which just means it's kind of like more or less everything here is dog shit. So you can dogfight everything kind of the same way that they overpull, they get slow, you maintain speed, and you just keep going around the circle, and you can kind of make that work. But your kit itself is good, but it's not great. It doesn't really suit the plane very well. Like the AIM-9J is kind of like more or less like the way that it plays out in this tier is like it's somewhat of a short range missile. The AIM-7E2, the dogfight missile, the one that you should be using, it's situationally useful. It's good. It's nice to have, but if I could trade my AIM-9Js and my AIM-7E2s for AIM-9Gs, that's what I would do. Like the Israeli Kernas 2000 is at the same BR as this plane, and it is functionally a lot better at the things that it should be doing. Now, the problem that I have with this plane is it kind of has like it's one of those American planes with a cult following of people saying like it's really, really good. You just don't play it right. You just don't know what you're doing. It's strong all the time. It's like, well, no, not really. It's not strong all the time. It's strong some of the time, and the some of the time that it is strong is when people will play it. And in order to understand this, we have to talk about what the old guard of sim more or less does, because the old guard of sim, basically anyone that has played the game a long time, basically, I don't know, but we'll call it 2 years ago, and before that, guys that had like identify and will tell you that they are sim players. The way that they play these tiers is they are looking to farm people in basically whatever is the strongest vehicle for the BR for the most part. Yes, there is some variation in it, but usually, like the guy that's in the background that I'm fragging, Creature 252 or whatever his name is, you're not going to find him in something like an F-4E when he can take a J7E. You're not going to find him at a higher BR in the F-4E when he can take a MiG-23 MLD. It's just not going to happen. So what this means is really the only time that these legacy planes perform is when they're in down tiers. And in the old tier, it wasn't actually good at 11.0. It just wasn't it wasn't the best. And I played this plane even before the battle rating decompression. And if you played this plane on the wrong day, which was basically every day that it wasn't the top of the BR, you were fighting things like the Mirage 2000 RD1, the attack version of the Mirage 2000, which is basically the same as the regular Mirage 2000, but has a gun pod instead of an actual gun, and has Magic 2s, and the flight model is more or less basically the same. Nothing that is Gen 3, nothing that has a flight model like the F-4E Phantom has a chance against the Mirage 2000 of any kind of variation. And what did old head players do? Well, they spammed out Mirage 2000 DR1, they spammed out J7E, they spammed out basically all the planes that are actually really, really strong, and this plane was never given any attention because it is thoroughly at 11.0 in the old meta, and even in the current meta, kind of mid. The other thing to understand about this is old head players have a different attitude towards the game than I do. Old head players are much, much more likely to run away to their fucking airfield and sit on it until you run away from them. So if you play something like a Phantom against a J7E, or you play it against a MiG-21 or anything that can outrun this thing, and at 11.0 there's things that can, like MiG-21 BIS I don't think has a problem outrunning this. Where are all of these old head players going? Straight back to their fucking airfield, and you either die to the SAMs, or you turn around, you give them 6, and they're in a better plane. And the better planes aren't even just better maneuverability-wise, but it's also kit-wise. Like the J7E at 11.0, the PL5s or whatever it is, those missiles serve a much better function than the AIM-9Js and even the AIM-7E2s. You have a good flight model and whatnot. Now, the other issue with this plane is that it is popular with people that are grinding, people that are brain dead, people that are bombing, people that are basically playing sim as a PvE mode. It means that when you play this plane, everyone that's on your team is going to be basically useless. Playing this plane at 10.7 down tier days is basically you don't have a lot of games available in 2v2s. At least that's been my weekday experience. And I took this plane up to 11.7 to kind of show the worst of the worst. And it's okay. I can make the plane work, but I don't think it's necessarily all that great. Or I don't think that it lives up to the reputation that people claim that it does. Because there was a post when this moved down on the War Thunder Sim Reddit, someone was like, "Oh, the Gaijin's stupid. The F-4E is a lower BR than the F-5E." And then I think Wyverov made a comment and said, "Well, it's kind of stupid," and people actually downvoted him. And I don't think he was wrong. I think the F-5E, for all intents and purposes, is a much more versatile plane if these two things were at the same BR. The F-5E is a straightforward plane. You can go back and watch a video from months ago of me and the F-5E dogfighting Mirage 2000s and winning. You will not win against a Mirage 2000 in an F-4E unless he literally turns his brain off and just flies in front of you. Even the things at 11.7, your matchups aren't particularly strong. J7E owns you. The MiG-21 BIS is still, I would say, arguably better. At least in the MiG-21 BIS, I'm not really worried about F-4Es. Yes, you can do the rate thing, and that's what I'm doing in the background. I'm doing the rate thing, the thing that everyone theorizes about doing, but isn't really able to put into practice. And the plane rates around the circle once it gets to low fuel. It does it reasonably well. We get a J7D that comes in behind us, and what we're going to have to do is we have to do a flat turn, add some altitude to it, take away some altitude, and then try not to go below him and try not to get into a position where he can cut into us and actually shoot us. The MiG-21s are winnable fights. It's the time that you have to invest in winning the fight that sucks. It's the fact that your team does not exist, the fact that your team is not playing PvP means that it sucks. It's hard to do. Like, this is a huge time sink to do this effectively. Otherwise, if I play this map normally, if I'm trying to, like, wander around, if you have a team, you can do fine. The playing is okay in randoms, when the teams are even, when people are actually playing the game. But that's not going to be most of the time. Most of the time, you're going to have teammates that are, like, useless. There are matchups that you're going to still be going against in your up tiers that are still pretty damn bad. The Mirage F1C is still something that you see pretty regularly. And in this fight, at any one point, Mirage F1C can come through here, shoot a Magic 2. If I'm not schizoflaring, I'll die. Even if he gets close enough, if I'm not schizoflaring, I'll still probably die. So this is a huge time sink. Yes, I'm going to come around the circle and do the offset, the upset, the reset, and I'm going to win this one. But just look at the time. Look how long it has taken to do this. This is not really a viable play method in any kind of match that has a lot of people in it. And it's not really any kind of viable method in a match that has, like, planes like the F5, which is also on the enemy team. At any one point, I am a big, fat... I'm still moving pretty fast. I'm still a pretty reasonably quick target. But I'm still fat. I'm still smoky. My missiles are not really suited right now for, like, long-range third-partying. Like, the AIM-9J is kind of, like, eh. The AIM-9G, on the other hand, fantastic. Get a frickin', I think that's a Draken that comes through. And right now, I'm super-duper vulnerable to third-partying. Mirage F1 directly behind me. As I said earlier, he comes through, he shoots a Magic 2. I die. I don't know how these guys can't figure it out. I am 3 versus 1 right now. And I am really kind of occupied with the MiG-21 or the J-7D. And I'm really just hoping that Mirage F1C doesn't queue up Magic 2 and doesn't shoot me with it. And it's going to work out. It works out this time. It literally works out this time because everything goes well. I play everything absolutely perfectly. I have, like, Premonition. I have the ghost of John Boyd looking over me. I come down. I'm going to try to come into the MiG-21. And I don't quite have the angle, but I am improving my position against the MiG-21 and just kind of hoping that the other guys that are flying around just, like, keep fucking up, basically. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm coming around to the 21, and any moment now, Mirage F1C is going to shoot out in front. I shoot an AIM-9J. Like, that guy could have pre-flared, and he wouldn't have died. Like, there's no excuse for that kind of thing. But we're still improving the position on the J7. The Draken is probably behind us somewhere. But the Draken is, with the flight model nerfs, with things, with the Rider 2 reports, with the way that guy went and reported everything that he didn't like fighting at this tier so he could spam out the Mirage F1C to stat pad the shit out of it. Or spam out the Mirage 2000 DR, whatever the fuck. Like, because all that shit got nerfed. Like, I'm not too worried about the Draken. I know that as long as I keep a little bit of speed, as long as he doesn't have aim and doesn't have any kind of, like, concept of, like, how to, like, go out and, like, maintain his speed and then come back, I can kind of ignore him. I can just assume that he's incompetent, which is, that's not a good place to be. That's not a good, like, thing to say about a plane of just, like, the way to make this plane work is just assume everyone else sucks. Because if you watch my channel and you actually get better at the game, then none of this shit actually works. But this time it does. The Draken dies because he's trying to go up. He's trying to stall us out. Or I'm trying to stall him out. And Friendly finally comes in and kills him. This current ass, he's going to help out one time. He's going to die a couple more times. And he's going to leave. And that is generally what happens. And this is just to show what life is like. This is kind of what Sim is actually like for a lot of people a lot of the time. We get a guy coming in. We have 2 minutes of fuel. I just take the full commit head on because, like, if the guy's behind me, I'm not going to be able to, like, 50% throttle to make it back to the base. So, like, I don't care. I'll take the L, fly directly into him, hold down the trigger, and win. We get a J8, and J8 is not a particularly hard fight, but it's probably a plane that probably does the same thing you do, but actually better. The J8, the big fat 2-engine MiG-21 looking kind of thing, probably does all of the same things that you do, but a little bit better as far as being like a missile bus at this tier of like, oh, it's a long-range BVR kind of plane. Like, people think that these dogfight missiles are really good, and they're good situationally, but they're not like the 10-kilometer undodgeable missile that people kind of make them out to be, because the radar in this thing is not a pulse Doppler radar. So if you fly low, ground clutter really does interfere with that shit. So your best shot with the dogfight sparrows, and any sparrows, is if you're down looking up into clear sky. Either that, or if you have people up at high altitude and you have like basically clear background behind them. For the most part, if you fly low, if you fly reasonably low, you can kind of ignore the AIM-7E too. So we get the J8, and then we head on each other, and I'm fiddling with the dogfight sparrow, and I collide with them. So it doesn't actually work. So in a lot of ways, the way that I run this plane is I kind of turn the radar off most of the time, because the RWR, because it's the modern one where you have like full fidelity, like you can tell distances to planes, what kind of planes there are, gives you more situational awareness than the radar does, and the radar kind of just functions as a homing beacon for everyone else. We have Mirage F-1C coming, and this is one of those planes that is kind of an Achilles heel for this thing, because the Mirage F-1C is basically a flight model that is similar enough that it can kind of do everything a little bit better or a little bit worse depending on the situation, but it has Magic 2s. And it is the perfect plane for making you, in your rate fight, doing like the right thing against the MiG-21 to go, hey, how about you just don't play the game? And the Mirage F-1C is also one of those planes at the BR that experienced players like Creature, the guy that I was fighting earlier, who was in the F-4E J80TW, the Denmark game, those are the kind of planes that he's going to favorite this tier. So if he can play those, he's going to play those. Same thing with things like the MiG-21 Bison, but you're not going to fight the Bison in this one because the Bison is always on your team. But the same concept applies. Like, yes, good players could probably get a little bit more use out of this, but typically speaking, good players are not playing dogshit planes on dogshit days. And at 11.0, with the J7E in the equation, the MiG-21 BIS basically being just as good, if not better, because it has all aspects and has like a flight model that's a lot more usable. It's a lot more suited for EC because you can win your fight sooner. Same thing with the F5s, the F5C, the F5E. All of these other flight models are just effectively have much more utility than this thing does. Now, should this thing have moved down to 10.7? I don't think so. I'm going to say, again, they should have taken the IRCCM carriers, moved them up a step. A-10C should have moved up a step. Should have moved up like 2 steps. It'd be fine. The Mirage F-1C could also move up a step. The MiG-23 ML could have like stayed the same. The MLD could have stayed the same. The MiG-21s could have stayed the same. The J7E at 11.0 is really, 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 really dumb. Like, I do not like the J7E because it's very clearly one of the best, if not the best, 11.0 that you can take. And when you couple it with the fact that experienced sim players tend to favor the most broken vehicle for the BR, it means that you in your F-4E midmobile are going to experience some problems because you're going to run into J7Es and they're going to be flown by people that have at least 2 functioning brain cells. And that's exactly what's happening here. I am trying to rate a plane that I assess to be a MiG-21, and it's not actually working. Basically, the only thing the J7E has to do to win a dogfight with you is just kind of like hold the stick back. The energy retention kind of takes care of itself. Really doesn't have to do anything, which means in order for me to win, I just have to be better. Now, thankfully, if your whole entire gameplay experience is flying the most broken, easy mode, handheldy plane possible, it means that even a shitbox like this can at least put up a fight against even like mid-level players, and that's kind of what's going to happen here. I try to force an overshoot. I'm going to try to go for stall control, try to take advantage of that, try to get this guy to shoot out in front, just try to like keep changing things up, give him hard shots, get out of the guns, and then start to reset the fight. I don't have the energy to go up. I'm out of energy. I'm going to get speed again, because if I can at least start the fight again at like an angle, at high speed, maybe I can force kind of the same thing. And I'm really just kind of like looking to trade position for shots, misses, counterattacks, go in, try to get a shot, trying to look for a mistake where I can actually exploit it. And we almost get one right here. If I do right rudder a little bit, if I'm a little bit more proactive, I get the shot there. And just looking at this trajectory, I'm like, okay, I'm not necessarily going to win this, but there's a fighting chance. In reality, this fight should not be close. This fight, if I repeat this with anyone that I actually practice with, J7E, it should just absolutely clown all over the F-4E. We go for another shot. He flies through the guns. We're just a little bit off to the left. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to reset. We're going to do something like this is a kinematic reset. It's just me diving, gaining speed, creating an angle where when he merges, he's not just directly riding my ass. And I'm looking for him to like make another mistake. He's made a couple mistakes already. He's given me a chance. And I'm trying to work with what I got. Should I win this? No, absolutely fucking not. Like, he should be able to ride my ass, spray me down, like, look at it and go, it's an F4 Phantom, it's bad. But nobody's ever seen like an F4 Phantom like actually try to maneuver. Nobody's actually like practiced against people that are good. Because the other thing that experienced players do is they look for other experienced players to not play against them. They look to play the game, especially this tier, on the easiest level of difficulty that they can game. So this guy overshoots. He does get a hit. We tank the rounds. We're coming back around. We got kind of like almost the same counterattack as we had before, but we can't pull in. We don't have the energy. So we're just going to kind of like go up and over. And we're going to try to force stalls. And in Sim, people are not really good at stalls. And that's something that can be abused. But even with the J7E, this guy's still winning. It sucks. It's like, oh my god. Like I have to hit like basically what I consider like a 1 in 100 kind of shot. Like this guy really has to fuck it up. We're going over the top again, trying to get him just in front of us, trying to get him scared, and it's not working. This sucks. This like he's lag turning. He's doing like what you're naturally inclined to do, which is just like angle your lift vector like behind their tail, and the J7E just kind of wins for the most part. So we're gonna go up. Missile misses, hoping that he just can't aim the guns, and that kind of sort of works. I don't know if I lose the flap here in a bit because of a gun shot, or if I lose the flap because I left them out. I'm not really too sure about that. I'm trying to angle my plane though, so that I'm pulling underneath of his and trying to like put it so that like my cockpit is like pulling towards his belly, and then like he's like over the top, and we get like a little bit of a scissors here. And as we're going down, he should hit those. If he hits those with that kind of like really like close deflection shot, I would explode. But because he came in for a shot that was bad, a really small window of attack, he kind of like shoots out to the outside, gives us a small window of attack, and I win the aiming contest. I literally won that because he was bad at aiming. That was kind of it. And that's gonna be the reality. Like, if you play the plane a lot and you learn how to use it, you can get a lot of use out of it. But that doesn't mean that you should fall into the thinking trap that I do good with this plane in the game, therefore it is actually good. Now, is the F-4E good at 10.7? Yes, I think it is probably too good, especially when you consider the other variants, like the Kernas 2000. On the other hand, I do not think that this plane is going to be relevant as a PvP plane on any other day than its 10.7 down tier date. And that is really just due to the fact that the way that a good portion of the player base that finds this Vietnam tier fun is basically taking the most metamobile for the day and farming kills in it. And when you move this thing up to 11.0, it's no longer the metamobile. The MiG-21 BIS is arguably better. The J7E is clearly better. There are other things that can run you down. There are other things that can give you a really hard challenge that the players that you normally see farming kills in whatever the best battle rating vehicle for the day is are not going to be playing this thing on anything other than a full down tier day. And even on that full down tier day, they are not going to favor the F-4E. They will favor the Kernas 2000 because of the AIM-9Gs, the fact that it can take 6 of them, and they are not going to do anything remotely interesting with the plane. It is going to be the same kind of playstyle that you see when 10.0 F-104s are able to shoot AIM-9Js at things that don't have FUD. It's going to be pure hit-and-run gameplay with the AIM-9G. If you get behind them even if you have a chance of running them down, they probably have a squad mate with them. And if they don't have a squad mate with them, you're probably going to be on Tunisia. And if you do get behind them, they're running directly at their airfield until you break off. And if you can't kill them, the SAMs are going to kill you, or you just have to give them 6 o'clock and let them come back in and do the same tactics over and over and over again. And it means that a plane that I think is good, has a lot of potential for fun, is going to be rendered down into the most boring-ass milquetoast thing possible that is going to be not played on 11.0 days and is going to be unbearable in some lobbies on 10.7s because people are going to favor the one that is the best and work together to play it. Or you're going to end up like me here, where you're flying it in a full up tier, you're flying against things that are better than you, and because you're playing US, you are paired up with nothing but bomber farmers. You're paired up with a team that basically just doesn't exist. Like, you don't have any PvP support, and you go against the whole entire bracket, and I can make it work. I can do some stuff that's cool. It's cool to show. It's cool to show that's possible. But if you're trying to learn this, you're trying to, like, learn how sim works, if you go into this thinking that the F-4E is, like, the GOAT, the best plane in the world, I don't think that it is. I think it's solid at 10.7. The flight model is solid. Was okay at 11.0. If you move some of the things that shouldn't be 11.0 to BRs where they weren't, the plane would have been fine. If you moved some of the IRCCM stuff up, the plane would have been fine. If the meta for the Vietnam tier was basically not experienced players taking the most metamobile vehicle for the day and trying to farm as many US players that are just bomber farmers for, like, you know, those like high kill game screenshots where it's like, I went 45 and 1. The plane might not have moved down, but we're here. This is the situation that we got. It's not good. Like, I don't like the fact that it's 10.7. I don't like the fact that we might see the F-4C move down. At the same time, I don't think this is going to be nearly as egregious as the F-8U, because the F-8U received basically a straight-up buff to the flight model across the board in the form of, like, the wings not ripping as much anymore. And moving it down to 10.0 means that you have AIM-9Ds shooting against things that are basically flareless. At 10.7, most of the things that you run into have flares, and you don't have a team, and you end up in a 3v1, and then you eat shit, and then maybe the plane will move down to 10.3, and then it'll truly be busted. Anyways, that's the F-4E video. Like and subscribe.